got busted. Quack, 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 quack. You were looking down. Oh, yeah.
Shut up. I wasn't looking at my phone. 12 and... Oh! I'm your host, Adam Chamail.
And I'm Aaron Schroeder.
That is right. This is a Pac-12 podcast. What?
I can only imagine that people immediately come into each episode annoyed whenever I do my name. I just imagine I must be that fucking asshole.
Those people are already gone. They're 2 minutes
fair
into
point.
the podcast. They listened through that song. They suffered through the theme song. They saw me, like fucking off on my phone. I've already dropped the F-bomb. We're 2 minutes in. Yeah,
brother,
they're
it's
gone.
feeling great.
The bandwagoners, they already jumped off. This is only the true Pac-12 fans.
I have to say, if you're new to this show because you happen to be a reverse bandwagoneer, because the Ducks are killing it so hard that you are now standing for them.
Now's the time, yeah.
We'd like to say welcome. If you enjoy your time here, please head over to our website where you can learn a whole lot more about us. We've got a bunch of history links on there. We got a way for you to get over to our iTunes/Apple Music place so that you can rate and review us. And most importantly, you can go over to our Patreon at patreon.com/Pac-12 podcast, where for $5 measly in Adam's words, you can become a super fan. And it would be a really nice thank you for this holiday season if we got a couple extra Shamolians. We've got a whole bunch of history episodes. We got a whole bunch of Duck D&D, which is where we reinvented Dungeons & Dragons so that we could play football. And Adam, I think we have something else, but I don't remember what it is.
Good times.
So, if you want to watch us do this, head over to the YouTube, Pac-12 Podcast. I'm sure you can just type it into the YouTube search bar and it'll pop us up. And then you can see Adam's pretty ugly face.
Wow. Now that the plugs are done, Aaron, we have like the biggest week of Oregon football in the freaking world right now. The last time we've felt this level of like this game is a turning point. Like either way, this game means just about everything. I would say is when we went to the Horseshoe, and beat Ohio State. Maybe that's results driven, so who knows. This game is truly a huge, huge moment in program history.
This game solidified what I've believed in my heart and then professed over the last few weeks, which is that you can't ask for a better... I mean, I try to think of them as individual players, but it's impossible because they play so well together. It is a one thing. They are an entity now, if you will.
And Camden Lewis. Yes, I agree. I'm joking, Camden.
No, I'm not joking, brother. I don't know why you had to stick a thorn under my toenail so fast.
Oh my goodness.
Because I don't know where you want to start, but I could bring heat now, or we can hold off and talk about Washington next week a little later.
Well, a little later, yes.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you remember a little story about a man who had a problem with his Achilles heel.
Which one? There's plenty of people with some ACL injury. Who are we talking about?
The OG. The one that had one weak spot.
Achilles?
That's right, baby. When the Huskies look at us, I'm sure they see the one glaring place where they can exploit a narrow margin.
So you're saying they're like, make sure the game's close and that it comes down to their kicker. Well, it's funny seeing us for example, miss that first field goal in the first half, which would have given us a bigger lead. It makes you think back on Washington, on that game against Washington game when so many people were pissed off that we didn't go for the easy field goals. It's like, I'm not sure there is an easy field goal. Not on this team right now. Going for the scores, good idea.
I do feel like I derailed your ability to steer the show, and so I apologize, but I have to ask,
That's your job.
do you know how far that missed field goal was? Because
Oh, I
last week we
forget.
both said where we would be comfortable, and yours felt a little close
It was
or a little
around,
far.
because for me, I was like, I want you to be automatic from like 30-ish, and I thought that
And
was.
I said like 35 or 40, I think.
You said pretty far. I want to say off the top of my head, I'm pulling it up right now. It was like 35 or something like that. Let's see, missed field goal.
Boy.
34. It was 34.
Wow.
And that would have put us up 17-0. It would have been like the third scoring drive in a row to start the game. So it
should be a stress-free kick.
I mean, you want it to be pretty
Brother,
close to automatic.
did you
it's
see
college, but yeah.
You know, look, I made one user on Twitter really mad.
Aaron,
And
we
so
don't
I'm
have time for
trying-
this. I'm stopping this.
Okay.
We have to get right into this.
All right, go ahead, baby doll.
Quacksball. Quacksball. Quacksball.
Wow,
Now we
I
have-
derailed you big. I'm sorry.
We have
Basketball.
Quacksball. We have Quacksball here. I don't want to get too far into this. We're still in the early season. I mean,
And
really,
I have total belief.
yeah. Things are rough. Things are looking rough. Both teams, there's still optimism to be had for both teams. Maybe not optimism to, like, win the conference, but to be competitive, to be watchable, to get better, and
Oof.
maybe, be competitive.
Dark times when you say be watchable.
Be
Because-
watchable. Not that they're not watchable now,
But I didn't watch a game.
yeah, but they're on the verge of, like, falling off that cliff of being like, okay, this is real bad basketball. But
Wow.
I'll get into this. We overall had not the worst week. Men had 2 games because they were playing in a tournament, the Emerald Coast Classic, kind of a little 4-team, little mini thing. We started off against Santa Clara, which was kind of scary because Santa Clara, the women's team, is the one that just humiliated our women's team the week before. So it felt like a little, a little ominous. And it was 82-88. We did lose that game.
Hey, high scores and close.
Yeah, and one
That's
of the
a win.
reasons why it was a high score is because now this team was really built on the idea that we have 2 7-footers.
Yeah.
And they're very athletic, they're good scorers, great defenders, and
Yeah.
we're building it around that. And they've been around the block for a while. So that was like our staple. Then N'Faly Dante, once again, not necessarily got injured, but it kind of felt like his previous injuries have been, acting up. He played in that first game, but then has been sitting out for a while. And then Nate Biddle got injured with, I believe it was a wrist injury, if I remember correctly. And so he was sitting out for a while. We were hoping, hey, maybe there's a possibility both of them will be back for this. Maybe one. Who knows? In fact, neither of them were. N'Faly Dante will be out for about 4 weeks minimum. I believe both of them had surgery like this last week. Dante will be out for at least like 4 weeks, and he'll be reassessed in 4 weeks. It's not like he'll hit the court in 4 weeks. Nate Biddle, our other 7-footer, he'll be out for about 8 weeks and will be reassessed in about 8 weeks. So we went from a
God.
we went from a team that was like, we're the tall furs, we're 7-footers, this is what our spirit's gonna be, to all of a sudden it's like, nope, we're small ball. We got to go small ball now. So if we have a successful season, which is not dominating season, but a successful season, then we should be praising Dana Altman for being a great coach because he's had a lot of things chucked at him, especially with like Mookie and Shellstad out, in the beginning of the season. That being said, I want to say this. Here's a little glimmer of hope, especially if we're going to be a small ball team all of a sudden, is that Jackson Shellstad did come, or our promising young rookie, was actually able to play. And he played against Santa Clara. And actually didn't play a whole lot because he's still, I think, in limited, time. But came in and immediately hit his first 3-pointers. Also got another bucket. So he got a quick 8 points that seemed to kind of matter.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, the team shot like 33% from 3-point land, which isn't bad. We're always just going to need that number to go up if we're playing small ball. Like you got to be accurate. We shot 44% from the floor. We're going to need that to go higher. This is the fucking killer, my man. Especially, we lost by 6 points. We were 12 of 21 from the charity stripe. 12 of 21. There's 9 free points we could have gotten right there.
It's better than half.
That is true. We were out rebounded 36-39, which probably wouldn't have happened if we had our 7-footers out there.
Sure.
We do have a young guy, Kwame Evans Jr. He's got some height to him. He scored 16 points, got 6 rebounds. We're going to be, relying on him quite a bit. And then, so we lost that game, which means we played against, it was actually a ranked team against Alabama, who had just lost to Ohio State.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, against Alabama, we did lose again. It was, and it was a back and forth game, and then they'd go on a 8-0 run, and then we'd catch up, and then they'd go on an 8-0 run. So there was a lot of that. And at the end, we did like rally back to try to really cut down the lead, but we lose 99-91. So not exactly a great defensive showing from us, but we scored 91 points.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
that's something.
it seems like in the positive way, how we make fun of the Huskies for playing down to their opponent?
Absolutely. In football,
it's like the reverse. It's like the positive way. At least we're playing up to our opponent. We were only lost by 8 points.
Yeah. No, not bad. And like if you want to get some, good stuff out of this, we were 80% from free throw line, 12 of 15, 52% from the floor, 35% from 3. So we were getting our shots. Jermaine Couisnard got 24 points.
Okay.
9 of 14 from the floor, 3 of 4 from long range. Keyshawn Barthélemy could have hit some more 3-pointers. He was 0 of 4, but he got 10 points. That's something. Mm-hmm. And again, this is what you really want to see. Jackson Shelstad was 4-12 from the floor, but did score 10 points. Brendan Rigsby got 5 points. He had a 3-pointer. So, I don't know. There's some reason to be optimistic, especially since up next on December 2nd is Michigan. So that's going to be another big game. But then it's UTEP, California Baptist. Syracuse should be more of a challenge, but then Kent State. So things are getting a little easier. Hopefully we can have time to gel, and we're just going to see what this team is. There is talent, but a lot of injuries.
So, big picture here, help me visualize this team a bit more now that we no longer have 2 7-footers on the court. I would assume a 7-footer is fairly rare in the sport. There's probably, only like 100 of them across the nation?
No, well, there's probably more. I mean, for 7-footers that are also elite basketball players, because a lot of teams, you'll have a 7-footer, but maybe they're the reason
standing under they're just standing underneath the goal, waiting to grab the ball.
Yeah, like that's kind of their extent. Yeah.
Okay, so then when you say small ball, I immediately think, well, it's 1956 and the average player is 5'10".
Well,
which is not true.
Yeah. 1956 actually was more like, it was even more about super, super tall ball, because the game is literally just rebounding and getting it off the back. Like, no 3-point shooting or anything like that.
Okay. Well, anyway, you understand my point.
Yeah.
I mean, the average height on our team is what, like 6'5"? Still,
I don't know the top of my head what that is, but I'll tell you, like, we're relying on a lot of guards that would be like 6'6", stuff like that. Like Keyshawn Barthelemy only like 6'1", Jermaine Couisnard 6'4".
Okay,
so we're walking around there. We're not like a puny team.
We're averaging out at probably like 6'3", I bet.
Something like that, maybe a little. But yeah,
So it's like a lot of me's running around. I get it.
Yeah, it's gonna be accuracy is going to be the name of the game now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really is. But also, if they can get, even without the tall men, you know, if you got to play better defense at this point. We got to, find ways to get more buckets.
Here's my new philosophy. It probably already exists, but for me, it's just popped into my head, and I call it the break and wait. Which is when you get the rebound, break as fast as you can to get to the other side to get the points.
Yeah.
And if that ain't going to work, then just hold the fuck up.
Yeah. Just slow. Well, hey, this is
And
perfect
just wait.
transition.
Huh?
Perfect transition here.
Okay.
Because let's get into women's basketball.
Yep.
We all know, so the last game was a terrible 30-point or something like that. Lost to Santa Clara, one of the worst in Kelly Graves, if not the worst.
Yeah.
Lost in Kelly Graves at Oregon history.
Yeah.
The idea that we're a defensive team just kind of went out the window. Well, now we're going against the Nevada Wolfpack,
Okay.
who were 2-1 before we played them.
Okay.
And
The
it was a
Nevada
close
Wolfpack.
one for a while. It was 33-32 at the half. Ducks did have the lead. Fortunately,
Wow.
Oregon pulled it off in pretty dominating fashion. 76-47, the Ducks did win this one.
Wow.
And I would say it was because of a defensive effort. They did a good job
Okay.
of shooting it down, slowing down the game, mucking it up, and then taking their time to then get across court and use their size to dominate. And that's exactly what happened. Our best players, a.k.a. Chance Gray, Grace Van Slooten, Filipina Che, they all had big games, including Sarah Rambis, the freshman forward, who got 17 points off the bench. So that was very promising. Sophia Bell even got like a couple 3-pointers. So we weren't offensively, it wasn't, like blowing the nation up or anything like that. But we went 4 of 14 from the 3-point range. Hit 45% from the floor, 20 of 27 from free throw range. Could be better, but not abysmal. And probably more importantly, we got 58 rebounds as opposed to their 35 rebounds. That'll do it. Filipina Che got a double-double, 16 points, 10 rebounds. Grace Van Slooten, 17 points, 16 rebounds. That's how you win games,
Yeah.
that's how this team's going to win games. Winning the battle of the boards, having, strong defense, and then taking your time to line up your shot to get, hopefully, the easiest points.
Right.
And hitting enough threes to keep them honest. So up next is Portland on November 30th in Portland. And then we got Baylor. That's always a tough one. That's a big one. And then, Idaho, Portland State, Southern University. So things should be getting easier outside of the Baylor game. And we'll see.
Adam, I got to give you an update on myself. I feel like a complete idiot because of what you just said. Did I only just now realize the actual importance of the 3-pointer?
Yeah.
And so that maybe my layup idea, where that's all you do, is terrible, because if they expect you just to do that every time, then they're just going to crowd up in there where you can't do that. So you have to be able to shoot from far away to make them spread out. God damn it.
Well, it's even having the threat of that, or even like a jumper. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're going to need something to clear things out.
Yeah.
Unless you truly are just no, I'm Shaquille fucking O'Neal. I'm going to get in there.
Which we're not.
We're not.
Well, we kind of.
We can sometimes be. Filipina Che isn't exactly a Ruthie Hebert out there.
Right.
And we do have some, Grace Van Slooten kind of it. She's got some good moves that she can get it to the bucket. But things are going to open a lot more up if people like Chance Gray, maybe Sophia Bell, can hit that 3.
Man,
we'll see, man.
It's taken me
Yeah.
this many years and this many games into this season to realize.
No.
Anyway.
Well, it's just like football,
God damn it.
Every
now
once
I am
in a while,
upset
you got to throw the ball just to make it so you can run, or vice
Right.
versa sometimes. Like, you
Right.
got to run so you can, so that they'll have to worry about the run a little bit, so then you can throw the ball.
Right.
Like, it's kind of that simple, too, yeah.
So, dang.
We're in a weird spot.
Yeah, we're in a
just
weird
gotta wait
spot.
and see. Early season. I hope to God both of our big men can get back on that team. Because it's like, we got a good team. It's just they're injured as fuck, and it stinks.
I think it. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, and we'll see how the women's goes. That's the one I'm always the most concerned about. Because they're the only one I've ever seen be great.
They were
the men
truly
have
great
always
for a
kind
while.
of been.
Yeah.
The men have always been kind of borderline for my time period.
For your time. I wish you could have seen them when they were in their heyday. It was it was so fucking fun. It was a great time. But not now. Maybe now. Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe Mookie and Shellstad come in there, take really earn starting positions, and then all of a sudden we're a great small ball team.
Oh, do we have any quotes from the coaches from press time to look forward to with, losses and wins from both, I mean?
Dana don't like talking all that much. I heard him
he-
talking on the radio a little bit, and it was kind of just stuff he was pretty happy with the team's performance. Like,
Well, that's good.
yeah, it's kind of showing you that he had quite a few people that Dana was saying just like, I got no problems with the way they played. I got no problems with the way, and he's understanding. It's like, yeah, we just lost two
Better
starters.
teams? Yeah. You
better
lose
teams
two
than
starters, and then everyone plays at the best of their abilities, and you still lose. That's a win for the team.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
It's-
I got
the
some
men,
quotes from Kelly
yeah.
Graves.
Oh, boy.
Well, I mean, this is after a win, so he's pretty happy.
Yeah. They really showed finesse and teamwork. They really played ball together today.
He says, I was really pleased overall. It was a really good effort. We got back up on that horse, so to speak. We got bucked off the other night and had a really bad taste in our mouths. I'm just really proud of our team to come out tonight and work their butts off and follow the game plan. That's why I'm never interested in interviewing coaches, because you're going to get answers like that, and you're like, oh, you just wasted a minute of my time.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of wasting a minute of your time, let's get into a commercial break.
Oh, boy.
And then we'll have Hickley on the show to talk about
Woo-hoo!
what we predicted during the offseason.
Oh, snap. A year-end review, if you will. A season-end review.
Quack,
All
quack.
right.
Well, Aaron, hate to say it, but the time machine is broken.
I mean, this whole thing was running off the power of your cell phone. And obviously, when we hit 1894, there's no longer cell service or Wi-Fi connection. So,
Not gonna lie, I did not think this through.
God almighty, Adam, what are we supposed to do now?
I mean, we're in Eugene, Oregon in 1894. We could check out the very first Duck game. Maybe it's a good thing.
No, it's not good. Look, we've already been here for about 5 days, and the very first thing I learned living in Eugene, Oregon, is that shows have been banned that are quote-unquote unchaste and demoralizing. And that's kind of the only kind of content we know how to make, dude.
We could review every Duck season as it happens.
Even the children here are freaky.
Then post it on the Pac-12 Patreon in the future.
I mean, it's just really hard to not spoil, tragic national events.
Imagine it, a weekly show dedicated to Oregon football history with two charismatic time-traveling stoner hosts.
We live in the most expensive house in Eugene, and it's a fucking shack.
And the most beautiful thing about it, we can charge them a measly $5 in the future. And when we get it in the past, we'll be freaking millionaires comparatively. And I'm talking robber baron status, baby.
Adam, I make bugs fight in a shoebox just to simulate television.
All listeners would have to do is go to patreon.com/quack12 and sign up for hundreds of hours of duck entertainment.
But the hooch is good. In fact, it's kind of got me wanting to try my own hand at it.
That's right. For a measly $5 a month, that's patreon.com/quack12. Now let's go watch them lemon yellows give those hay seeds what for.
And keep your eye out for Dr. Schroeder's blueberry wine.
And we are
Quack, quack.
back on Quack.
Quack, quack.
Aaron, we just beat...
we left a little hot, huh?
We left a little hot. We were pretty angry. We just beat Oregon State, which felt, in my opinion, pretty fantastic. They're always the team. You know, I do think of them as little brother.
Sure.
They beat us last year, though, in embarrassing fashion.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter. Dan
Ish.
Lanning had that fourth quarter playing over and over and over again.
That's right. Smart.
With
Very
apparently
smart.
you couldn't
Great
turn down the
move.
volume too, which I do love that idea. Completely worked. I mean, we would have beaten them without that little gimmick, but that mentality certainly helped, I think.
But
we dominated.
that's
from
why
beginning
we
to end.
beat. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a rooster or a chicken and the egg situation.
Exactly.
I think he's been having them. That's the playing that video is the appropriate thing to do for the way he is. You know, training them really in a work ethic.
I mean, that pile driver tackle that we got
Dude.
called for, which I'm like, if you don't blow the whistle, then he's got to get the guy down. What do you want?
Yeah.
Those refs. And
Yeah.
we had a dire situation with Bucky where they said he was down when it was like, what? No. Anyways,
Dude.
refs are against us. Everyone's against us. Screw them. It's all about us.
Vegas is,
Vegas?
in fact, being a culprit.
You think so? well, we may get into Vegas conspiracy theories because I know that's what Aaron really wants to talk about.
That's all I want to talk about.
But we destroyed the Oregon State Beavers. It was
Could have had 3 more points.
Could have had 3 more points, Mr. Camden. Hey, he is the all-time leader in points scored for the Oregon
don't care.
Ducks. So maybe
I don't care.
maybe put that under your hat, buddy. How
That's
many
fine.
points have you scored for the Oregon Ducks?
0.
Exactly. We completely destroyed the Beavers to the point where literally Jonathan Smith got on a plane, got the hell out of there, went to, I guess, a much more stable program in Michigan State because he just wants to keep playing us. So Oregon State, I mean, they lost their coach. Now
it's funny.
Now they just promoted
it's
their
Oregon's
DC.
first.
But still, rough situation. They no longer have a conference. They don't have a schedule for next season. Even they're in the PAC-12.
So,
things are
and
rough.
maybe this is a question for Hithloday as well.
I'm sure it
So
is.
maybe I should hang on to it. But
Maybe we should bring him on. Yeah.
Okay, maybe we should just go ahead and jump him in because I
Ladies
just
and
have one
gent-
question, and it's one of my type questions, but maybe he can help because he does watch the tape. Ladies and gentlemen, for your oral pleasure, and those of you on YouTube, the one,
You could see
the
a duck.
only, Hithloday one.
How's it going, Hithloday?
Hi, it's nice to be here. What a nice introduction. Thank you, Aaron.
What? That's what
very
Aaron
welcome.
gets? That's what Aaron gets when he introduces you? Damn. Not
All right,
hi,
put some
how's it
effort
going?
into it.
I guess so. Damn.
Okay, can I ask my question really quick? Because
Rip it
Adam
off.
kind of said something that made me think about it, which was you may remember, I believe it was just before the fourth quarter, the head coach had a little talking head interview thing where he said, basically, we got to figure out how to stop Knicks. That's like it. We don't know how to do that. We just got to somehow stop him.
Good plan.
Which, to me, sounds like we've kind of given up on this one. Like, we're just going to try and stay close. But with that all being said, here's the question. I personally feel like we could have avoided the injury to our player had...
Tysheem Johnson. is that
Was that tackle too much, too late in the game?
Are you referring to Oregon's wide receiver Gary Bryant?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
You know,
The sideline tackle. It
That one
seems
was weird. I didn't get a good handle on that one about how exactly he was hurt because it wasn't really. First of all, it wasn't a dirty tackle or anything.
right. Okay, so it's not overly aggressive.
Yeah. I mean, it really sort of just looked like a pretty normal tackle. I think
Okay.
maybe just his cleat got stuck in the ground, and then as he was being tackled, just his
His leg wrapped up.
Yeah, or just like just so it's probably just a strain. Look, I am not like a biomedical expert, but given what Lanning's comments were, that he's gonna be fine, which, like, when he says something like gonna be fine, that's sort of, I think, deliberately vague as to what the time frame is, like, but what that, what I infer from that is simply there's no bone break. There's nothing that's like he's permanently disfigured and will never play or walk again, like, which probably just means it's a sprain or a strain, where like the connective tissue has been extended in some way that it shouldn't be, which usually means, with the lower leg that it's like the cleat gets stuck in the ground and then he's being pulled in some way that and I mean, it's not pleasant. It certainly hurts. Like, my heart goes out to him, but it probably means, Lanning is right when he says, like, he just needs some rest, and that at some point in the future he'll be back to 100%. Now, whether that's in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, I don't know. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if, he's back and playing in the bowl game again.
Because I don't know. Maybe this is my protective nature, my nurturer side. But there was a certain point where I was like, God, Oregon State, y'all should like mellow the fuck out. You're not gonna win this. You're playing too hard. And I get it. Right? Like, this Oregon is State their last game for a lot of people.
Aaron, there's a whole can of worms about that. There's a couple different things to say about that.
Okay.
First of all, I really did feel like, oh man, like every week I say I don't want to talk about the officiating, and then I wind up talking about the officiating. I really feel like the officials did a really, really bad job in this game. Yeah. And like a really bad job in this game. And it's not just the typical stuff that I wind up not talking about, but then talking about, which is like advantage fouls, and, holding and interference, in which the sort of like, the non-enforcement of advantage fouls always helps the inferior team and hurts the superior team, because the superior team is winning, and then the inferior team has to hold or interfere. And so, when those flags are not thrown, that means that like the superior play is not recognized. That's all over this game. I mean, I put a bunch of clips in my article, and well, you can see them. And
on Twitter, you pulled up some good specific ones that I think.
And then on top of that, so advantage fouls, like sort of by definition, are discretionary. Like, for example, holding. In the category of advantage fouls, holding is sort of, the classic example where if like the hold takes place away from the play, officials, as part of their mechanics, are not supposed to call, so like, let's say the run is to the right, and the hold, takes place like on the left and way away from where the ball is. But it's like textbook, like that dude on the left is being held. It's like it meets all the other criteria of what a hold is. He's being restricted, whatever. It's just that the dude who's being held cannot possibly get to the ball carrier. There's no way that hold affects the play. It is absolutely 100% proper for the official not to throw that flag.
Sure.
Because there is no advantage, right? Like that's what an advantage foul is that the team who is holding gains an advantage that they are not supposed to have. And so the ref is supposed to, correct that by throwing the flag. If there is no advantage, then there is no foul. Right. So if the hold takes place away from the play, they're not supposed to throw the flag.
Two big guys bear hugging.
Right. So that's why advantage fouls are discussed as being discretionary, right? Like you're supposed to make a judgment call about whether, so that's why another example is that like pass interference has an element of catchability. If the ball is not catchable, then who cares if there's interference, right? So
sure.
Advantage fouls are discretionary. Safety fouls, on the other hand, are non-discretionary, because if a player, because safety fouls, so safety fouls include things like chop blocks, clipping, horse collar tackles, face masks,
right.
etc. These are always supposed to be called, because it doesn't matter whether it affects the play or not. If someone's safety is endangered, it's supposed to be enforced, to disincentivize harming somebody else. And so like that's where that's what really gets me incensed, when the officials don't do their job, because like now you're encouraging players to do dangerous stuff,
Right.
And so like there's a play in this game, and both me and Jeff Schwartz call it out, and Jeff had access to the L22. He had a better angle on it than I do, where like Jordan James gets through the hole. It's going to be like a 30-yard run, and the Oregon State linebacker, who's engaged with Jackson Powers Johnson, Oregon center, just sticks his foot out and trips him. Like, it's just straight up. I mean, like, it's clear as day, and it happens right in front of the umpire. It's his key too. Like, it's sometimes with officiating, like a foul will occur like within the it looks like it's happening right in front of an official, but actually if you understand the officiating keys, he's not looking at that, he's looking at something else. And so you have to actually, like, if you understand mechanics, you're like, yeah, I know, but actually he's not looking at that, so you have to be sympathetic. Nope, not on this play. That is absolutely his key. He's supposed to be doing that. And so it's like, look, that his supervisor ought to be downgrading that crew, but then like the Pac-12 is not going to exist at the end of the week, so like, what does that even matter? So anyway, like,
supervisors on Craigslist looking for a new job.
Yeah,
dude.
I know.
Yeah.
So like that's really bad. Allowing safety fouls to not be enforced, especially in a rivalry game where you've already had chippy shit like that with suplexes and stuff happen. Like that's, and on top of, I'm going to talk about the Jonathan Smith and the Beavs getting hosed by USC and all this other stuff in a second. Like, it's really, 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 really bad to allow that stuff to happen.
Yeah.
And the fact that there wasn't like a fight in this game, is kind of a miracle.
You've got my brain spinning, because how many times did we watch either of our running backs break through the line only to look like they've somehow stumbled?
Well, Aaron.
And I'm like, well, how many times are these assholes tripping us now?
Well, I mean, there's the one there.
I'm fuming.
I mean, Aaron, look, I really think this game was very poorly officiated.
Yeah. Wow.
And I know I feel like I'm saying that every week.
But you're not
You're
wrong,
watching
dude.
the game, because you're watching the game, my man.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But like, this was especially bad because it wasn't just discretionary stuff. It was safety stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and like not calling safety fouls in a rivalry game, and especially this rivalry game,
Yeah.
where Oregon State's ready to blow their stack. And like, Oregon is really pissed off about how last year went, and has been spending all like 365 days, pumping up, about it. Like, the fact that there wasn't a brawl in this game.
So maybe it's
Miracle.
not so much that Oregon State was playing too aggressively. It's really that they were being allowed to be too aggressive.
Well,
for too
I mean,
long.
that's what every officiating crew is on high alert for in games in this sort of circumstance, is like clamp down on
we
the
already know we're
chippiness early, like make it very clear, like, no, like no pushing and shoving, like none of that, like throw the flag early on any of that sort of stuff. Like, usually you see rivalry games with more yellow hankies, not fewer. And so this was very surprising.
Yeah.
It was very surprising to me.
Well, they were for sure to give us the one at the very beginning when Bucky. They made a point to make that one be nice and clear.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyway.
it was pretty nice that this was such a non-game, because like there was those early penalties on us, but we go on like an 8+ minute drive.
Yeah.
And then even at the end of the half, we were like, well, we got under a minute, but we got time to score. And those really put it like away. And then I don't think Oregon State had much fight with the injuries, with last week's loss to Washington,
Right.
with the fact that they know Jonathan Smith isn't coming. I don't know if a listener who was there can tell me, were they really playing the Michigan State game on the board? Because that is...
I have contacted people who were there. There were some of the ATQ writing staff who was there, and everybody confirms that they were doing that.
That's so damn funny.
What happened here?
So Oregon, on the big boards, you got two big ass screens there.
Right.
Put on the Michigan State game purely because the rumor was, basically confirmed rumor at that point was, that Oregon State's coach was gonna go coach at Michigan State. So for some psychological warfare, it's like you're getting into
That's
Jonathan
legal?
Smith's head.
While Oregon State was out on the field doing warm-ups.
Yeah.
They're watching the Michigan State
pre-game.
versus Penn State
Jesus
game.
Christ.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, not
I
during
thought
the
this
game.
was like third quarter. We're just like,
That would be funny, but
we changed the channel during our own game.
Eric, this is boring.
The thing about this, how hard was Oregon State playing? Sort of the answer was real hard.
Yeah.
Number one, I'll tell you that from watching the film. Like, they were definitely going at it hard. In fact, it was interesting when you break out the first half, second half splits. Oregon was running the ball, or the Oregon Ducks were running the ball pretty effectively, about 6 yards a clip, in the first half, and then in the second half, when Oregon had built up their lead, and Oregon State sort of sensed that Oregon was going to try to shut the game down and go on another one of those drives, like the first drive where they go on an 8-minute run-based drive. And Oregon State, I think probably correctly, they made the correct strategic decision of saying we can't let them do that again, because if they go on an 8-minute drive, we're just donezo. So Oregon State made it very clear with their defensive posture that we're not going to let you run at all. And so I put a couple clips in my article where it was Oregon State is completely doing everything they can to not just stop the run, but to signal to Oregon, we're going to treat every one of your plays, your RPO plays, everything like it's a run play. We're just going to ignore the RPO option. We're going to, we're going to have the safety come down to the we're going to treat everything like it's a run play. So you're not going to get anything like a run. You might as well be passing the ball. And so Oregon, received the signal. And so if you look at their 5th and 6th possessions, which are their 2 possessions out of the half, Oregon switches over, and I think they have 4 designed runs in the entire, 5th and 6th possession. But it's that it was, it's funny sort of what they cannot speak to each other like human beings with their mouths, but offensive and defensive coordinators across the field speak to each other, in the way that their teams play. And and if you're watching the film, you can watch them communicate. And they were, so Oregon had communicated, we're going to run to shut the game down. Oregon State communicated, we're not going to let you because we need the ball back to try to play. And Oregon said, okay, message received. We will throw the ball and we're just going to score again in order to put the game out of reach. And Oregon State said, okay, we'll try to, play pass defense. And then Oregon said, okay, fine, we're just going to score. And then Jonathan Smith said to the sideline reporter, we got to figure out how to stop Bo Nix because he's scoring and we don't have an answer. And then then the game was over because they couldn't stop Bo Nix. And to go back to what you initially were saying, Aaron, because there is no answer for Bo Nix. He's played more games of college football than literally any other human being in quarterback anyway. That's the other thing, or another thing that I put sort of a special section in my article is that this guy is really doing some special stuff, not stuff that's never ever been done before or anything, but he's not just a good quarterback, or he's not just a good passer, but he's highly accurate. He makes changes to the play before the play happens. He's like having a second coordinator on the field.
Yeah.
He is making difficult throws that are like NFL level.
Dude.
Like and like if you have a player like that on the field, it's like there is very little a defense, even an exceptionally high level defense can do to stop that. And Oregon State doesn't really have an exceptionally high level defense. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why very high level quarterbacks are the most highly paid people in all of sports, or really all of the planet. You know, it's because that skill set is like almost undefendable.
Yeah. When he did the across field pass
To Troy
while
Franklin before the
running,
half.
it was
Yeah.
just like,
That was
That,
amazing.
in my, I mean,
What
that
is-
play is amazing and may very well win him a trophy.
I
But
thought it might.
that's not
Theismann.
even the
I
most
screamed
amazing.
Theismann, yeah.
Like that's a cool play. That's
Yeah, that's the
maybe
fun play.
fifth or sixth most impressive thing that he did.
yeah.
Like if you really know what you're watching for, that's like doesn't even make the top 5 list
Yeah.
for like just truly impressive, like pure quarterbacking thing that he did in that game.
That pass to Troy Franklin in, like, I think it was 3rd and long on our first drive was
Sure.
a pretty
Yeah,
damn good
that-
pass, too. Yeah.
That one's in my article. There's another one to Troy Franklin where it looks like he's throwing the ball away. But he connects, and it's just like, holy cow, he's doing that while he's falling backwards. Like,
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
think I
yeah. The
remember
one
that.
where he had somebody in his face, right?
Yeah.
So he threw the ball before he broke.
Yeah,
And
before even looking to
Yeah.
score.
It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, look, there it is.
yeah, and it's like, oh, that was a connection. Oh,
I was thinking
wow.
about
Yeah.
that. To be one of his receivers, you truly have to be prepared just to get hit in the face with the ball because
Run your route.
you
Oh,
know
man,
it's
but
coming
that's
to
not
you.
even. But that's not even it. There's another clip in my article where I'm trying to talk about how it's like, look, he makes this look easy, and so it's sort of difficult to appreciate. But look, I review all of the Pac-12's film, and so I watch a lot of like young gunslingers who've got like rifles for arms, but who are like trying to take their receivers' heads off or trying to throw a hole into their chest, and they're throwing the ball at where the receiver is, rather than where the receiver's gonna be, so that he can catch it in stride as he's turning downfield to to turn like a modest gain into a big gain, so that he's catching it without having to break stride at all, that it's got it's got no more velocity on it than it requires, so that it's an easy catch, and it's like all of it looks easy on film. It looks like the easiest thing in the world. It's not. Like, I can tell you from watching 11 other quarterbacks, in this league, like, it's not. It's a veteran thing to do, and there's a bunch of examples too. And so it's like, yeah, it's really high level play. And and for the and so when I'm writing my article, I tune out the social media stuff. And so when I come up for air, and then to see like people who have, for self-interested reasons, want to take shots at Bo Nix for like, it's just a bunch of easy stuff and short stuff, and I'm just like, man, you either don't know what you're talking about, or you do, and you're willfully, you're willfully ignoring it.
It makes me laugh because now I remember again a few weeks back where he overthrew the ball, but he's like, you gotta run faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I
exactly.
mean,
No, it's a
maybe
little
he put it
different. It's just
exactly where
being
it's
like
supposed to be.
demanding, but yeah.
Yeah, there was a moment when Tez Johnson got on Bo Nix's ass, which made me laugh. It seemed like Tez was chewing Bo out for something.
Yeah, there was something. I think it was a missed opportunity, like he was open and
something like that. Yeah, it was cracking me. I think it was on the Camden Lewis made field goal. I believe so.
Yeah.
If
There's
there
a-
was one.
yeah. The other thing about, before Oregon State goes into the night, like, I was, I was a little frustrated with some of the stuff that I guess I shouldn't be mad at Oregon State fans. If I were in Oregon State fans' position, I would be angry and lashing out too.
Yep.
And like
Yeah.
when people are hurt, they do things to relieve that pain, and you can't be too mad at them. some of the things that I've seen Oregon State fans say about, their team, because of what Jonathan Smith did this week or failed to do to prepare them for this game, that's the only reason that Oregon State, lost the game by a large margin. That I sort of felt like this wasn't really, that's not true, and B, kind of disrespectful. Like, but again, I'm not really mad. I understand why you're saying that. Like, if you watched Oregon State this year, you understood that this was coming. And furthermore, if you had watched Oregon State over the last 3 years, which I did, and like in my preview article, it was nice because, like Jonathan Smith's been basically running the same team for 3 years, and like, or really for a longer time than that, but like COVID sort of kind of hits a reset button in a way. So it's like the, 21, 22, 23, like my preview article is sort of like, let's watch this team over time and watch some trend lines and see what's necessary. And the thing that, like, here's the thing, like, there are components that were necessary to this team that left at the end of the 2022 season, and in fact some of them even left at the end of the 2021 season, that like he didn't do anything to replace. Like, and Adam, you remember, I'm sure, during our off-season preview, where I was sort of like, I was pulling my hair out about like how amazing it was that, Jonathan Smith had this really great 2022 season, and the portal, the transfer portal was open. All of the, the roster management tools were significantly more liberalized. And, I was really expecting him to revitalize his roster, strike while the iron is hot, and he did nothing. And so, like, Oregon State fans, it's sort of, maybe I'll put it this way. They have a point about Jonathan Smith screwing them, but he didn't screw them on November 22nd. Like, he screwed him on June 22nd.
Right.
Like, he screwed him by or May or April or where the off season, whatever date you want to pick, when he like didn't do his work. That's when he checked out. Like this team wasn't ready to, like, this team, and I mean, look, I said this when I was doing my preview of on our wins, and maybe we'll be talking about this for when we review our predictions for win-loss totals. But like, the prediction that I made was like, look, they're still going to have a good offensive line, they're still going to have a good run game, and against a lot of the Pac-12 teams, that's going to be enough for them to run through a lot of teams. But I don't think their defense is going to be as good because he didn't restock the cupboard, and I don't think the passing offense is going to be able to get him out of jams because he didn't do anything to restock the wide receiver room.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to be able to, against the best defenses, even rely on the run game because he didn't restock the tight end room. And the real dirty secret of Oregon State is that they need the tight ends to help them block in the run game, and he didn't restock the tight end room either. And so all three of those things were really evident in this game. Yeah. Like, or when they really needed to run, well, first of all, they couldn't run at all because Oregon just had their offensive line completely shut down. They couldn't use tight ends to help them because they didn't have really tight ends. They couldn't, they got some passes off, but not nearly enough because they didn't have, a wide receiver core that had anybody who could catch the ball who's taller than 5'7". And their defense obviously couldn't withstand, anything that Oregon wanted to do. And like all of that was very obvious, and it was like I called, this game on November 23rd, 2023, back in May or whenever it was I wrote, my Duck Dive article, because it was obvious from looking at that roster. And I feel like Oregon State fans probably were in denial about this for like 6 months. For like 6 months, it was clear to me and anybody who seriously looked at Oregon State's roster that, like, Jonathan Smith. And now, does that mean that I saw the writing on the wall that Jonathan Smith had checked out and accepted the Michigan State job? No, because that hadn't happened yet. Mel Tucker hadn't fumbled the bag, so to speak. But like, was it clear that he had screwed up and screwed this team over? Yes, abundantly. And was it
Man.
clear that he was going to lose this game by a large margin because Dan Lanning had, in fact, done the work to win this game and avenge
Brother.
that loss? Yes, abundantly. And it was abundantly clear in the spring.
Yeah, I agree. Oregon State, they on paper are our best win of the season, which comes at a good time. I don't know if that, playing in Salt Lake City, winning in Salt Lake City feels a little bit bigger, but without all the players Utah didn't have. Yeah, but it's good to get a top 25 win. They are still a top 25 team, which is a little, so it feels like they're being like, yeah, sorry, Oregon State. Here you go, 21 or whatever. I don't know what the college football playoff committee will rank them, but we get the win. It was a dominating win. Anything else to say to our parting Beavers here at the day? We'll have plenty of time to talk about them. We'll probably be playing them in the future, but the final Pac-12 game.
I mean, I do well. As I said to Jake Hedberg, like I do actually think that Trent Bray is a pretty good coach. Like it took me a little while to, I had some reasons to be skeptical or to think like these other variables need to be controlled for first, but like those variables have been controlled for now. I now am willing to accept it. And so now that I learned, which I learned when I logged on to this podcast because I'd been out of pocket for a little bit. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see that team as a defense-led team, which it basically hasn't been for a while now. It's been primarily an offense-led team for a while. So that'll be interesting. Yeah.
I agree. And if he does a good enough job, maybe he can be Oregon's future DC. Who knows? Okay, here we go, y'all. We got an interesting round of the picks. The final, really? Well, until the Pac-12 Bowl bonanza. Yes, what is it, Aaron?
Just want to say, we are not going to be talking about Huskies today.
Nah, well, a little bit about the last game.
Okay.
If you got anything to say, feel free, but we're not doing necessarily a deep dive.
I was just curious how scared Hythloday was of us losing this game because of a field goal.
Specific question.
How scared was I of losing
to the Huskies
against Oregon State?
Future game. No, the future
The
game.
Washington game.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that's coming up on Friday?
Yeah.
I think it's unlikely that it'll be within field goal range.
Yeah.
I mean,
you
mean
think
that,
we're going to be up that much? You think we're going to be
or
up
the
by...
other way? I don't think it'll be a close game either.
Oh.
Either on the numbers, because on the numbers, Oregon should be in clear command of this game, given that what Washington is over the back half of their season, over their final 6 games of their season is not. It's nowhere near what the team was that they played in Seattle.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so there, and given that Oregon is even stronger now than they were, when they played in Seattle, it shouldn't be close enough that a field goal is going to matter. Or in the alternate, there is another possibility, and the other possibility is that it just all crashes, which is the thing that I actually am, terrified about. Right. Honestly, it is the number 2 possibility.
God.
Which is that they're just totally in their heads, that the Washington's passing game comes roaring back, and that while that's a totally one-dimensional team, the one dimension is like a molecular unstoppable blade, and that it just tears them up, and that they're losing by 20 points, in which case, again, a field goal won't cut it. So.
Right. Okay. God dang it. Okay, well, that wraps up all I wanted to talk about. Thank
I'm hoping Odunze has one bad game, and it's this game, because it really feels like he is possibly the most important player for this whole thing to kind of work. I've just seen so many goddamn highlights of he's the one who's won it for them all. Like catching some amazing 50-50 ball. I'm as afraid as ever. I don't know if I think I'm less afraid than the first time we played him, but the stakes are certainly a lot higher. Let's get into this. The picks.
Okay.
The picks.
The pigs.
That is right. The Great Pick'em Challenge. We got a fun little take on it this time because we made some over-under predictions on season win totals. This is regular season win totals, so we can really dissect these right now. First of all, let's start at the very bottom. I mean, this is also the bottom 11. Bottom 11, really. Colorado. Now, they had so much hype with Dion. They definitely have less hype than when they started, though the expectations are kind of the same, because they won one game 2 years ago. Now they have many more than one game win totals. It's 4. They won 4 games. The over-under was 3.5 for the Colorado Buffaloes. So I guess you could say this was a successful season. Would Colorado? I am intrigued to know what good old Jack Barsh or Dan Carlin of Hardcore History would say about this, because I would imagine it's a kind of a good season. You did more than expected. You got 4 wins. You beat last year's team that was in last year's national championship, but no, it feels pretty bad to it. You didn't make a bowl game. You didn't look competitive near the end against a lot of teams.
Didn't make a bowl game.
I disagree, Adam. I actually think that Colorado... Okay, I disagree with what you said there at the very end, that they didn't look competitive. I actually...
that's true.
Go look up... go pull up what their schedule was. They played a lot of teams close. They played Oregon State really close. They played Arizona really close. They actually... They played USC really close. They have a lot of close... they're close losses, but look, man, that's always how it goes. When you're a bad team that's building back up, first you lose big, then you lose close, then you start winning. So, in many ways, they're ahead of schedule to have a bunch of close losses. But
they're going to have a whole new head coach now. Is that right? Too?
No. He's still there.
Oh,
he's still there.
Oh, okay.
And it is very easily explained. The reason why they're getting destroyed was the reason that it wasn't a surprise reason. I was talking about it with Jack Barsh when I interviewed him. Remember, it was Jack didn't really want to hear it, but who would, which is that the offensive line is going to be a train wreck. But you can't fix the offensive line. That's what, I tried to tell everybody that we talked to, Adam, you were on the line every time, everybody that we talked to, that was just we got exciting portal-based offensive linemen, USC and Cal and Colorado and every one of these people, even the Oregon people that I talked to who were excited about getting Nishad Strother and Junior Ongelau and, this whole, and we're and I was you can count on maybe one of them, and that was it. It was a Johnny Cornelius, but that's if you're playing more than one of them, you're in trouble. Man, math is undefeated, and I now have 7 years worth of data on this of transfer portal offensive linemen. If you're playing more than one, you are in deep trouble. Portal-based offensive lines don't work. And every time we talk to somebody, they're super excited about portal-based offensive line. I try to grab them and be it's not going to work. If you're in an offensive line hole, you're going to be in an offensive line hole for a couple of years because you got to grow your way out of it organically. But here's the sort of the silver lining to that, or the flip side of that coin for Colorado. It was really the biggest problem that they had, and kind of the only problem that they had. All of their problems stem from a really terrible offensive line, and they're going to be in that problem next year and probably to some extent the year after that, but they can grow out of that.
If Dion stays.
Well, I don't know what the future holds
or 3.
for that.
Yeah. That's kind of Yeah, that's where it's like his biggest problem. They know the problem. It's very clear. The only way to truly fix that problem, as you said before, is through development and time. And that's the thing I have a hard time truly believing. Like,
Well,
so Dion's gonna stick around for maybe not making
and
a bowl
slowly
game
grow
for
the
next
offensive
year.
line. I mean, I suppose. On the other hand, I often think the thing with Sanders is that the persona that he gives off is like. I think that it's a character, and also
He's played the bad guy since he went to the Dallas Cowboys because
but
that's
he's also
what they
played the
decided
good guy.
was
He
gonna
also
be.
he also does the Charlie Church thing. Like he also unexpectedly will speak truths that other people are uncomfortable, saying out loud. So he gets to be, he gets to play the fool's cap.
He talks to a goat and a duck on a commercial I see every other day.
Yeah, like I often think that guy, is doing, he gets to zig where other people expect to zag. Like, so the idea that like, well, I think I've got this guy figured out and he would never, ever, ever, like that probably means you're wrong.
Yeah. The real over-under is over-under Dion 3 years at Colorado. That seems, I would take the under. But overall, I think you should, compared to where they were, I would be stoked if I was Colorado. It's at least entertaining,
I do think I would be a little disappointed in that I do think one or two games that could have been winnable for them, they allowed to slip away.
I mean,
like the Stanford game, obviously. So, like, yes, they overperformed what Vegas thought. I think this team probably should have won. Like, the team that they actually were should have won 5 games.
Yeah.
In that sense, like, or maybe 6 and gone to a bowl. And in that sense, that they underperformed who they actually were. But like, yeah. So therefore, I would be disappointed. On the other hand, the idea that like, oh, this team was never competitive and was falling apart constantly, I think that's a false narrative too.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So what did we pick for this?
Well, I'm not going to read every pick, but I will, because I want to reveal it at the end. But I will tell you this: if you specifically said something that came true or very untrue 3 months ago, I kind of jotted down a little note. For example, I said exactly 4 wins. I said they would get exactly 4 wins. Aaron said 5, but we all said over on this, so we were all right.
Oh, okay.
But Hithliday said they had a very likely, or there was a good possibility, he wouldn't be surprised if they went 3-0 to start the season. So there you go. That's another good prediction. Now let's get into this next one. Stanford, the team. I mean, that Colorado-Stanford game, which was Stanford rallying back from 1 billion points behind. I forget exactly how much, but proved pretty crucial here, especially for the over-unders. If Stanford doesn't win that game, they're under here. Because I listening to the episode a while ago, we were talking about like, well, okay, they got the Sac State, they got Hawaii, those are 2 wins. They did not beat Sac State.
They didn't beat Sac State, man.
No, they did not. But they got to 3 wins, which
what was the third win?
Am I crazy? I mean, let's see. They got Hawaii.
They beat Hawaii. They beat Colorado.
Am I fucking crazy? I know they did, but it is bonkers to think that they had another Pac-12 win, I suppose. Oh, no, not Cal. They lost to Cal.
Uh-oh.
Dragged this bad boy to a halt.
Oh,
Maybe
Washington State. That's right.
Washington.
That was
stupid
hideous.
game.
That was a hideous game.
Yeah, that 10-7 game. Yeah.
It is bonkers to lose to Sac State and then beat Wazoo, especially the hot start that Wazoo had for a second there. But Stanford has won 3 games. That's got to mean something. And in fact does. All 3 of us chose Stanford here too, which I do love that.
The 2.5 is that's a bitch of a line to take.
That is
like
that
requires like
rude.
It
is rude.
It just requires. I mean, 2.5 is a worse line to take the under on than 10.5 is to take over.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
Because it means you have to you got to go like almost unwin-feated.
Yeah.
Especially when you had Sac State and Hawaii on the schedule, and you're like, 2.5. Like,
you almost have to be trying not to win 2 games. You know, like
yeah, and it's like it's a
Hey!
coach's first season, and they've
You know,
got
it's a
talent.
I just take umbrage because I really like Hawaii.
I love
It's
Hawaii
mean
too.
to say that they're a guaranteed win.
I put this
Booyah.
up. I still have this up, ready to post to any. For people not watching this, I put up the Hawaii old logo. I still got this
love it.
because they are my team, man. They're my Mountain West team. I love them. And they had a pretty decent season for Hawaii standards. They had some decent wins in there.
they shocked Air Force. They actually they kind of sparked Air Force's tumble out of the rankings.
No joke. Yeah, I'm happy with Hawaii. Stanford, not so much, but it's funny that they're bad, and now they have to play on the East Coast.
Oh,
Or
you know
or
what,
in
though?
Dallas. Did you
Or
read
in
that?
Dallas, their home stadium, right? Because like they're gonna
they
have to
took-
do some home games in Dallas.
The ACC took Stanford, Cal, and for some reason SMU in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex at the same time to establish SMU as like the home away from home
Wow.
for those teams to like meet up at to play
Wow.
games.
Oregon and the LA schools in Washington playing in Big Ten is dumb, but the Stanford, Cal, SMU to ACC thing, it does not get dumber in sports. You could not.
It's
got to
be some sort of like stock scam, so that they're all buying stock in like Love Field. You know, like they're all buying stock in like American Airlines.
I truly didn't think Stanford or Cal
Southwest.
cared enough about football to do something like as stupid as this, where they'd have to go further to play it. I would honestly think they'd be like, let's just play the Ivy Leagues. Like, that made more sense to me. But whatever, Stanford, rotten hell, I guess. That is insane that they're going over there. I'll be watching you, buddy. Now this.
Oh.
America's real team. Fuck you, Jim Harbaugh. This is America's team, Arizona State. I still have such fond memories of staying up till 1 a.m. watching Arizona State barely beat Southern Utah University due to a sandstorm, a literal freaking sandstorm and lightning. Over-under was 4.5. I do not know what they were smoking. I believe that was even before they announced that there was a bowl ban. I can't quite remember. They won 3 games, and they had to try their asses off to get those 3 games. But every single win was very fun to watch. And this could have been a freaking dream season if things really fell their way. Like, they were competitive against USC. They straight up almost beat Washington in Seattle, which is something we couldn't do, and we're the greatest team in the goddamn world. And they got absolutely smoked by Arizona in the Territorial Cup. That's
what happens.
That's just happened. But I
almost contacted you when I learned that Rashada was starting. I was like, hold on, I don't want to be held to my pick on that one.
You're like, wait a second.
You know,
yeah. What do you
so
think of
bad.
that? The Rashada start.
He's so bad. Oh my god. He threw like he was responsible for like 4 turnovers in that game.
Yeah,
like he's
Isn't
just
it funny
not ready
that
to play.
it's
at
like
all.
okay, now that we have like an official QB as opposed to like a Borgay back there.
Yeah.
They almost felt worse, like because
They
they
are
didn't
worse.
have to go like the bag of tricks. Just do the tricks. Just do the tricks.
I think they need a full rebrand and should go back to the original logo mascot, like the.
Is this not the original?
No, have you
I'm
seen
sure
the
he's
profile
not.
one, where it's like a profile of the dude's face, longer nose.
Oh.
Anyway, I think they would
guess
be
not.
more successful because this dude's too silly.
I love that. You mean Walt Disney in a devil costume? That's what this is. It's literally. Did I ever tell you this, Aaron? It's literally based off Walt Disney. Is the rumor because
No,
the guy who paid the so like Oregon just got Donald Duck, right? So Arizona State hired a dude, I believe, from California.
Oh wow, they're that petty.
No, well, they're like, we want one too. Could we have one? And so they went to a guy who worked at Disney to draw them up a logo. And so supposedly, because he was a Mouseketeer or whatever, Imagineer, not Mouseketeer. Because he's an Imagineer, he naturally hates his boss, Walt Disney. And so he just drew him up like Walt Disney, because he's the devil. I mean, look at him. Doesn't that look like Walt Disney to you? Look at that face.
Am I crazy? Maybe there's not one. I thought there was a different.
Yeah, I don't.
Never mind. Ignore that.
Are you thinking about the little guy on? Maybe you're thinking of Washington State, because theirs is shit. What is that cinnamon whiskey stuff? Fireball.
Yeah,
There's a
Fireball.
devil on that, and that's kind of their second mascot. So maybe.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe
Who
you're
knows?
confusing that. I don't know. Arizona State, plucky as hell. I love them. I've said this a billion times on this podcast at this point. If I were an ASU fan, I would be a Kenny Dilling stan. We are Kenny Dilling stans on this show. And I would love if they had a great season in the Big 12, like next year. They could definitely surprise some people next year, I think, depending on how well he does in the portal. Because I don't think anyone's thinking about ASU. And they may be ready to play some Big 12 ball. Like, have a little bit of a defense. Maybe that gives them an advantage. I don't know. Did you like some ASU ball this year at the day?
I mean, definitely the weird stuff was fun. Like, as a film reviewer, like, I don't know.
Swinging
It was
gate? Come on,
at times.
baby.
At times, it was difficult to watch because the injury situation was so painfully bad that, like, I mean, just like. Yeah, I mean, like, literally it was painful to watch because it was like, oh boy, they're on the verge of not being able to field a team.
Wow.
Like, it was that bad. So, like, yeah, that aspect was dispiriting. On the other hand, like, I think he's actually did almost like he definitely did a better job rebuilding the defense than when I wrote my preview article of them. It was like the second article that I published, which like was too early. I should have waited a lot longer. Because he did like so much work through the portal. And like I was really worried that he wasn't be able to get the interior of his defensive line. And then it turned out that the interior of his defensive line turned out to be like his biggest strength, on the defense. So like, it was he did much better on the defense than I was expecting, and he got a good defensive coordinator hire. He's gonna need to. He's probably going to have some departures out of his secondary, so he's really going to need to go back hard at the transfer portal and rebuild his secondary. But he's got a good start for the back end, he's probably got his quarterback in Rashada, and he got him some experience. He's just like he wasn't ready to play as a true freshman. Mm-hmm. I don't know. He's got, like, I think he knows what the problems are, and I think he's aggressive about roster management, and, like, he showed some good proof of concept, on the defense, and it's just, like, all of it sort of got wrecked by the injury situation, so, like, I don't know, man. Like, I would probably be more inclined to believe than disbelieve, and I just generally like more aggressive roster managers than complacent ones. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We love you, Sparky. Okay, let's do it. Washington State over/under was 6.5.
Oh,
the question was,
geez.
would they get to a bowl game and then some? They nearly upset their longest their most hated rival, Washington. Nearly freaking did it. It was kind of a game where it was like they deserved to win it, and they also did not deserve to win it. There were some weird drops. There could have been some picks. Could have been some times where you turned over, like got some momentum. They got lucky at the same time too on a couple dry. Like it was the game that they needed, and they weren't able to pull it off. They were not a very fun team to watch either, I'll tell you that. Whenever I was watching a Wazoo game, even if they were up big, if they were getting blown out, it felt like a little bit of kind of a mess. Besides, their pass rush was fun to see a lot of times. That's kind of how I felt about this team. over the year, they've been a good thorn in our side, but I'm not 100% going to miss Wazoo. I love the Pullman atmosphere. I love their fans in general, but no, I'm not going to miss you, Wazoo. That's kind of how I feel. What are your thoughts on Wazoo, Aaron? Do you have any thoughts on Washington State? We may never play them again. Who knows?
Nah.
Yeah. There you go. Hithilday, do you think you nailed this? Oh, by the way, I should say, for Arizona State, you did predict that they would beat UCLA, so that's pretty fun out of nowhere. Against Wazoo, I think no one had any very good specific predictions. Aaron's the only one who predicted. Wait. I'm totally off. Actually, no, all of us said under. No one had faith in this team, and we were correct. Which I don't know why you would have had faith into this team coming into this, actually. Like, you think Cam Ward's, I guess, going to paste over a lot of the plot holes, but I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought, I mean, Cam Ward turned out to be better than I thought he would be because, oh boy. Okay. Ultimately, I don't think I predicted this team very well. I think I got the personnel all correct. Actually, I know I got the personnel all correct. I got all the human beings who played 100% correct. And I got their general skill level all correct. And that's basically why I got this season correct. However, as to like the more like subtle, stuff, which I pride myself on getting right because I actually watch film. It didn't work out how I thought. The reasons were, number one, the defense wound up playing a little better than I thought it would. That's sort of the Jake Dickert effect. Like, I think he's actually pretty good. Like his cornerback, like I thought that his cornerbacks would just turn out to stink, and they didn't. Like, he's generally getting better, like secondary play than he has any right to at all. And that happens like every year. To the point where it's just like, okay, I just got to believe that this guy knows what he's doing. And I got to quit saying every year. I mean, I guess I'm going to because Oregon's never going to see this team again. But like, I got to quit saying like, well, they've lost somebody who is better than he had any right to be, so therefore they're going to fall off in the secondary. Like, nah, he's probably just going to get better. I mean, not fantastic, but just like better. Okay. So I got to like file that lesson away. All the linebackers stunk, and I expected them to stink, so I did nail that. Anyway, the Cam Ward, on the other hand, did surprise me. I thought that he was going to be the same old schmuck. He's better, or at least here's the thing that I think is true. I think his old quarterback coach, Eric Morris, really I think he had a bad throwing motion, and then his old quarterback coach, Eric Morris, did nothing to correct it, which is like absolute malpractice, and the guy ought to be fired out of a cannon. Like, it's like horrible. However, the new quarterbacks coach, who'd only been able to work with him for a year, like actually did a whole lot to like try to fix him. I don't think it's like totally natural to him yet. I think he probably needs like 10,000 hours of doing it in order for it to become natural, and so you can see it breaking down. But like, it's a good start. And I didn't see that one coming. I thought that he was doomed, and he turns out not to be doomed. So like, in that sense, I need to like apologize. You weren't doomed, Cam Ward. And that was actually.
Would you be upset? Would you be like, this is a good move if next season they're like, oh, Cam Ward is transferring to the Oregon Ducks? Are you going, oh, this is a bad...
I don't necessarily think that's a bad move. Okay. Like, if he transferred to the Oregon Ducks with Oregon having their eyes wide open about who he is and what they need to do in order to make him, like, actually, a high-level quarterback, then, yeah, sure. And he certainly got a ton of experience, and like, a grad level quarterbacks who have that many yards and experience are valuable, even if their throwing motion is garbage. But if you actually, I mean, the reason why he beat Oregon State And the reason why he was competitive in a bunch of games, like even that UCLA game, which like everybody points at as a blowout, which is an 8-point loss,
Yeah.
1 score loss, right? And like the game against Oregon, in which like he kept pulling out, magic tricks, is because like when he remembers his lessons over this offseason and like, throws the ball like an actual quarterback, like, or why he beat Wisconsin, like when he actually throws it right, like, damn dude, he's got an arm. Like when he throws for real, like yeah, he's for real. And so if Oregon like actually takes that project seriously, like yeah, like totally. Now and then here's the third thing, which like I guess I didn't really understand, and I guess I didn't really understand it or predict it necessarily about Oregon State either, is like how the end of the conference was going to affect things, because like clearly, and I guess we're going to find out when the other shoe drops here. Where's Jake Dickert going? Where are all these players going when the carousel really opens up here on the 4th? Because like there was definitely a time when like this team, was just like, from maybe like weeks 9 and 10, where they were just like, not playing, and like something happened, and then like it changed again starting in week 11, and they were playing hard again, like weeks 11, 12, and 13. So like, I don't know, man. Maybe they got some news that Dickert was sticking around. Like, maybe the locker room changed around on him.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Good theory. I'll say, looking back at it, that loss to fucking Stanford, man, Wazoo, that was the win you needed. That was the one you needed.
That game was just hideous. That game was so stupid.
Yeah,
like it was just like, and it was really clear they just like didn't want to be playing in that game at home.
Yeah,
like yeah.
Well, there you go.
But
California, over under 5.5.
wow,
they made it to a bowl game. That is
good for them.
That is good. That is a good thing.
Hey.
Yeah.
Who said that?
Hifladay said it. Hifladay did. In fact, say it.
Where's my hype man who's supposed to be on Twitter? Like I got my hype man out there telling everybody that like I picked USC to lose out, which I was correct at, by the way, with the exception of like the 1-point win over Cal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, where's my, every week, hey, this is a good time to tell everybody that on the Quack-12 podcast, Hifladay predicted Cal to win out every week.
He did. It's true. I know. I should have been pumping it out there.
I'm not on Twitter.
You're not. Yeah. Aaron's your hype man. Clearly.
Yeah. Sorry.
And speaking of hype, if I'm a Cal fan, I'm not sure how I feel about this shit, because it's Wilcox has been there forever.
Wilcox forever.
And we fired Sonny Dykes because he kept getting us to like only bowl games, and we're just making bowl games. And now I gotta go watch him play in fucking Clemson or some shit.
Ooh.
Like, or it's like time for the home game in Dallas. Like, what is this? It's a 6-6 team. They do have like a promising young quarterback that no one saw coming, really. So that's fun, I guess. They do look like a I don't know, a decent team, better team than last year. They did make a bowl game. I don't know. This is your lot in life for a little while, Cal fans. I don't know why, but this is just what the sports team is. But you get that sweet ass calimony money from UCLA, so I'll never rag on you too much because that is funny as hell. Cal Golden Bears, everybody. They used to be my number 2 team in the Pac-12.
That's right. They were.
They really were for a long time. I don't even know I guess Arizona State. I talked about them so much this season. Sure, it's ASU, baby. Do you have anything to say about Cal? I don't blame you if you just want to pass talking about Cal, either of you, because what's there to say?
What do I have to add?
What do you? They don't care. Why should we?
I just want to know what I predict if I said over or under.
I'll tell you on this one. Let's see, I got it right here. I said under. Aaron said over.
Nice.
And actually, at the beginning of the season, Hifladay predicted a 5-7 5-7 season. He also said, though, he was like, everyone thinks that Auburn's just going to blow them out. Auburn sucks. That game's going to be closer than you think, but Cal's still probably going to lose. Which is exactly what happened, actually. Isn't it funny?
What's
Cal,
the game that they won that I thought they would lose?
That's the question. That's the question. I'd have to look at this season, really. Maybe it was USC. That's very possible.
No, they lost.
Oh, they lost that game. I forgot. Yeah.
Probably
yeah.
UCLA. Probably at the beginning of the season, I probably thought that they would beat. Yeah, that's what it is. When I was filling it out, I thought that they would lose at the beginning of the season. Obviously, then watching the season play out, I realized that they were going to beat UCLA. But in the offseason, I figured that UCLA would beat them, which was a reasonable thing to predict. UCLA with their situation versus Cal with their situation, that should have been a win for UCLA. Instead, Cal blew them out because, yeah, I'm super glad that UCLA is retaining Chip Kelly and that Oregon gets to play them next year in the Big Ten. There's a free win.
Oh, man. I never had – I didn't think UCLA was ever going to fire Chip Kelly this season, even with everything he's done. I never really bought those rumors because I still think they're hoping for the, like, no, let the maestro cook, it'll all come into play this next year.
No.
Like,
I love how the last Pac-12 game ever is Cal going to a bowl game on UCLA's backs and then paying for it with calimony. Like that's a build the wall and make the Bruins pay for it. Like I love it.
That is awesome. You gotta love that. Oh man, UCLA. They certainly do suck, don't they? UCLA, hey, I forgot they were next. I actually did forget they were next. Believe it or not, the over-under was 8.5. The reason why is because their schedule was as soft as this baby blue here on the screen. They did not get to even 8 wins. They were 7-5 because this was a mediocre to bad program in every single part of the field, really. Even the parts where you thought they would have a strength, like a promising young QB or even some veteran QB play. No, it was not a strength. In fact, they made things. People became worse at playing by being on this team, is what I believe. Their
well, that points to one person to me.
One dude, yeah, one dude who couldn't give less of a shit about any of this program. Yeah, they're bad, and I love it. I'm glad that they're still bad. They killed this conference to go be bad in another conference, I guess.
Yeah, they're about to get worse, right? Like, they're going to look worse now.
Maybe.
I think.
Well, maybe. I don't know. But I think they're going to look exactly the same.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what their recruiting looks like in the future. Certainly, they're in a mess right now, and their schedule was so easy this year, it's probably got to be harder next year, I imagine. They didn't play Washington or Oregon,
Oh, wow. Right.
And
we would have steamrolled them.
Yeah, but honestly, I still appreciate that they blew out USC because that is the funnier outcome out of it.
Yes. I mean, obviously, that's hilarious.
It's so
But
good.
yeah, no, I mean, the fact that they didn't play Oregon or Washington is why they should have stumbled into the Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah.
Like,
I wish they would have so we could blow them out. No. By the way, thank fucking God that we changed. Can you imagine this universe? We didn't change the Pac-12 championship rules, so it's literally still the winner of the North and the winner of the South. Because we wouldn't have gotten our Oregon-Washington rematch.
Oh, that's right.
We would have been like, oh, wow, we're an 11-1, but we lost to Washington, and they're 12-0. So, Oregon, you got to stay home.
Right.
Ooh, it would be so goddamn sad, especially in this situation right now where, like, most of America is like, well, Oregon seems to be the better team, and then not get the rematch. And instead, who would have been on the top of the South? Utah? Would it have been fucking Utah?
Arizona.
Oh, duh. Yeah, I completely forgot about it. And that, actually, I'd like to watch that game, sure. But that would suck. Oh, my God. UCLA is in a terrible spot. They got a terrible coach. I'm sticking with my theory. Chip Kelly is Mark Helfrich, but an asshole.
Right.
Like, so in that case, you could say Mark Helfrich is better than Chip Kelly. Oh, my. Isn't that crazy? Because he's not an asshole. Let's get into this next one. USC. The hype was so fucking high for this team. Over-under was 9.5. I
Wow.
went over, I'll tell you that, because I was like, yeah, they're just, no one's going to be able to stop them. What
did I
happened
do?
is, I can tell you. Let's see. I
I
went
want to
over.
know all of mine.
Oh, you will.
Okay.
Aaron, you went under.
Yeah,
Which
that
is
makes
correct.
sense.
Hithloday and I both went over. We had a little too
Wow.
much faith in it. Their offense got a bit worse, and which probably certainly didn't help due to Jordan Addison now killing it in the NFL, and just a few little pieces in their offensive line just never being all that great for the last however many years. And then their defense got, I can't quite remember yesterday. I don't know if I'd say worse or the same, but is really, really bad.
It actually, if you want to know statistically, it actually
better.
their defense got slightly better.
I believe
it. It was so terrible that like terrible versus slightly better is still terrible.
Yeah.
And it really is just like the offense got a little. It was just the more accurate thing to say is that it was a total high wire act last year.
Yes.
And that it all
weren't they ridiculous in the turnover ratio last year too?
Yeah, that's actually what really happened is that replicating what happened in 2022 required like everything going perfectly, and the only real thing that happened in 2023 was that like things didn't go as perfectly. They didn't have a million great turnovers. The offense was just a little bit worse. And
they had to play Oregon and Washington.
They had to play Oregon and Washington, so that was 2 extra losses. They didn't make up for it with extra wins. Like where so like unlike last year where they beat Notre Dame, they lost to Notre Dame. Unlike last year where they beat UCLA, they lost to UCLA. Right? Like they didn't make up for those the extra losses that they took to Oregon and Washington with extra wins. They made it. They had extra losses, so that's what that's why they went from 11 wins to like 7 wins. Is they added losses on top of the losses that we expected them to add. So
Not only that, but Caleb, have you guys seen the Fansville Dr. Pepper commercials?
Sure.
You know these? Okay. They had the one with Caleb Williams. There's been a couple. But I swear this commercial came out right before like the Notre Dame game when things really fell off a cliff for USC, or the beginning of the end for USC. There's a commercial where it's just him walking around being like, I can't be jinxed, like a black cat walked in front of me, and I'm on the cover of like the EA game, and I'm walking under a ladder and stuff like that. And he literally just jinxed himself. And I don't know, the timing was so funny to me.
That's weird.
Don't do that. But I don't know. He's going to be a great player on a terrible team in the NFL, so that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, but he'll own it. So,
but he'll have a share of it though. Certainly he will. Utah over under 8.5, 8-4. Bit of a confusing season. Hithloday, you really, really, really had your finger on the pulse of. I think Brant Keithy and Cam Rising may not be playing for a big chunk of this season.
I remember
and
that.
That'll make this team much more mortal. And they didn't play a single snap in this season.
But as I recall, my prediction was predicated on like they may come back during the year, and so like they may be good at the end of the year, and then like they didn't come back at all, and that's when they fell apart. It was the end of the year.
Yeah, if it affected some of your other decisions too, because you were like, with ASU, are they playing a Utah team that has people? They didn't, and it it didn't matter. But so 8-4 feels kind of. It's nice to see. Not that this is truly Utah's floor, but it kind of feels like. Their floor, if you have this many injuries to quarterbacks and different key positions, Yet they were still able to beat every non-con, barely in some cases.
I don't know. I mean, like it definitely. I mean, they played an FCS team and then a Florida and a Baylor team that just turned out to be just like crap.
Bad.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they basically,
Florida almost beat Florida State, which is
I know.
I mean,
and
Auburn almost
and
beat
Tennessee.
Bama.
I don't know. Like the SEC just sucks this year. Frankly,
It really
like,
does. It
And
really
so,
does.
like, effectively, they played 3 cupcakes in the non-con, and then
scraped
like
by one of them.
And then they played UCLA, which effectively turned themselves into a cupcake, and then like, and so like really the only like. So, I mean, really, let's look at their wins. 3 cupcakes in the non-con, which is, Florida, Baylor, and Weber State. They hammered the hell out of, ASU. We sort of talked about, like, the weird situation that ASU is in.
Yeah.
Colorado at the end of the year.
Same.
We talked, with, like, Shadur Sanders with a broken spine, right? Like, but even then, it's a 6-point win. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think maybe if they play Colorado in week 4,
Oh yeah.
maybe that's a, win, for Colorado and a loss for Utah. They sort of like got them at the right time. Cal, I don't know, like Cal barely made a bowl, right? The only thing that's really, that's sort of unexpected at all was beating USC, like their entire season was USC. Otherwise, they get blown out by Oregon, they play, Washington, but like, I don't know. We're going to talk about Washington, and then they get hammered by Arizona when really all their injuries catch up to them. But frankly, the way that Arizona was playing at the end of the year, like even if they were at the state they were in mid-season, that was probably a loss, just like not that big of a loss, But like there was, remember when we were talking last week about how they lost like all their defensive starters, and that's why but it's like, look, man, they they won 8 games, like 6 of them are total gimmies, that were sort of like handed to them on a silver platter. And so like saying like, oh, their floor is 8 wins. Like, I don't know, like if you let them play like, 4 or 5 teams that are effectively cupcakes, given their state of play, and then like a hugely overrated USC team that's in the middle of falling apart and ready to fire their coach, like I guess, but then like every time they played a good team, they got, hammered.
They really did. Yeah. So there you go. I'm sure Utah fans are purely thinking about, man, what's Cam Rising going to do for us next year in the Big 12? And that's all I'd be thinking about. I wouldn't give a shit about any of this. There's Utah. There's, that's a team that's got my respect, certainly, but I'm done with playing them forever, especially since they were one of the last 2 editions. Feels a little less sacred. Speaking of sacred bonds, Oregon destroyed Oregon State, as we know. 8-4 feels a little bit of a letdown, I would imagine. Not necessarily for this, who was on this team and what this,
it still seems high to me.
I mean, yeah, I mean, in general, they're ranked. It's freaking Oregon State, 8-4. That's like, you should be happy with that as a Beaver fan, which is probably not what they want to hear from a Duck fan. But I would think they should be happy with that. And the way it stacked up too, it was like they were in the running for a lot of the Pac-12 late until the loss to Washington. They were in the game against Washington, though that means like nothing at all. To have a close game with Washington, apparently. And now they're on hospice, and they gotta go retire in the Mountain West or something. I don't know. It is sad. But the team played overall pretty well until
No, they didn't. You're full of shit, Adam. Like, what have I been saying every week about this team? Like, even though it would be in my interest as an Oregon fan
They're
to
frauds.
say, like, oh, they're a
frauds.
super scary team, and this is a great win for Oregon's resume. Every week I was on this team about how they're frauds, that they played a cupcake non-con, that all they had was a run game that would go up against bad Pac-12 rush defenses, and they had nothing else going on. Their passing game was super inefficient. Their defense took a big step back from last year. That Jonathan Smith didn't do anything to restock the cupboard, and that when they actually play a good team, they're going to get destroyed by them. And then every time they got to play Washington in the rain, so they couldn't pass. They got to play Utah when Utah was like completely shattered. What happens when they played Arizona? They lost. What happens when they played Colorado? It's a one-score game. What happens when they played Wazoo when Cam Ward learned how to throw the ball? They got shredded through the air. Every week I was on this podcast telling anybody who'd listen, this team's, fraud. And I'm not trying to say that Beavs are fraud, or the Beav fans should feel bad about it. And I'm not trying to like poke fun at them, for the situation that they're in. I'm genuinely sympathetic to it. I'm just, as an analyst, for everybody, I just like, I feel like nobody actually watched the film on this team. I feel like there's a lot of people who pat themselves on the back for being like, yeah, I love a gritty blue collar team, and then doesn't watch the gritty blue collar team actually play football. Because if you watched the gritty blue collar team play football, you would have seen this coming from a mile away. Like, it wasn't difficult.
That they're number 21. Am I right? Like, that is actually kind of crazy. There should be 3 ranked teams in the Pac-12. That is what I would hear. Oregon State, like an 8-4 record with who they've beaten. Like, who is their best win? Utah. Ugh, that's nothing. Like, really, Utah? Like, Utah shouldn't be ranked, and that gets you number 21 in the country, 8-4. Like, yeah, I truly, I do think it's because they felt bad. Yeah, but they are my second favorite Mountain West team. I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's good. Number 14, Arizona. This has got to feel pretty good, especially when you're like, hey, could have beat. What if we lived in a world where they beat USC, which was down to the absolute wire? Some would say they should have, and beat Arizona, which was beat Washington, which was a 1-score game, and this is an 11-1 team. I mean, that's that
would be nuts.
They're not, but they could be, which is pretty crazy. And in that case, I guess they would have gone instead of us. But so thank God we don't live in that universe.
Yeah.
But overall, this is if your head coach, who you hired to redeem your program from an abysmal state, is not trying as hard as Fish, then you probably should have a different coach. As far as roster management is concerned, like, he went out, he got the talent that he needed. That talent is making clearly making them better on the field right now. Clearly, probably should have switched over to Noah Fafita quicker. Maybe cut some other weight there. But eventually did get to Fafita. Fafita's been very fun to watch. They've got elite receiving talent, and that'll win you some games. And their defensive performance is why they're 9-3, why they're number 14 in the country. And it's pretty cool to see that they're number 14. I mean, over-under was 4.5 wins. I would think Arizona State, best case scenario, is kind of going this Arizona path of we're really shitty.
It's just that they got started on this a couple of years later.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty great. I would be happy as an Arizona fan. Absolutely.
And I mean, Arizona did a similar, Arizona State had to do it for all their positions. Arizona did but a similar project. It was just the defense. They cleared out their entire defensive front. Mm-hmm. Everybody in the defensive line and everybody in the linebackers. They brought back, I think, one backup linebacker from last year, but everyone in their defensive front is new for Arizona this year.
Yeah. And then they
like,
got people like Flo out there who's like,
Yeah.
like was a 5-star. Like this is a perfect spot for you.
Flo didn't
you know?
really actually contribute that much,
No.
but like he's an example.
He contributed some crazy eyes though. I can tell you that
Sure.
much.
But like, I mean, that was when I talk about like I like aggressive roster managers who were like, well, our defense stunk last year. Let's do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in positions that you get like something like a receiver. That's
But I mean, they already had the offense, right? Like they already had, Cowing and McMillan. They already had the offense that they wanted to run. They already had Fafita, who was like in that, had been like practicing in that system. They made the quarterback switch, when Delora got injured at the end of the Stanford game, and then they basically never looked back.
Yeah.
They probably should have been going with him from the get-go.
I forgot that the Michigan State game too. Well, I'm not Mississippi State game was very close too. So like,
but I mean,
all three
like
of their
every one of their
were
losses is
competitive.
one score. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost Mississippi State in overtime. That's one score. They lost USC in overtime. That's one score. And they lost to Washington, 31-24. That's one
That's
score.
pretty amazing.
All three of their losses, and all of them could have been wins. Like there's a scenario in which that's 12-0 team.
That's pretty amazing.
And it's like each one. Now they didn't play Oregon.
No.
And
they're getting credit for beating or for losing to USC, but USC is also pretty mid. So
they Mississippi State's not a very good team, and losing to them, is not great. Although they didn't have the right quarterback at the time, and frankly, I think Fafita probably beats them, or I don't know.
He threw like 3 straight picks in that game, didn't he?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah.
It was bad. They also, I don't know.
But when you got a guy with such like high moral fiber that wants to lead the team,
I don't know. I do sort of think that, like, anybody sort of looks like, hey, this could have been a 12-0 team. Like, hey, let's remember, like, 1-point win over a bad Stanford team. And then like they kept playing teams that were like in the middle of falling apart. Like they played Wazoo when they were falling apart. They played UCLA. That team was falling apart. They played Colorado and barely beat them. Remember, they played Utah when they were falling apart. And then ASU. Rashada. We talked about that. So like a lot of their games, they sort of like they. I'm not saying that Arizona's secretly terrible. Like, that's definitely not what I'm saying. But, like, a lot of their games came at, like, just the right time on the schedule to smash them. You should get credit for being the hammer, but, like, also take note, of the walnut that you're smashing. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I am more excited for the Big 12 than I ever have in my entire life. That's usually a conference I'm basically not watching unless it's like, let's see if the top Big 12 person can fall to somebody, and they usually do.
And the top Big 12 teams are leaving. Like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. But well, now I'm thinking the top Big 12 teams are entering because I mean,
this is what I'm really looking forward to is next year in 2024 that like Oregon runs the Big 10. Arizona runs the Big 12, and let's say Cal runs the ACC.
Oh my God!
It's just like the Pac-12 just enters these 3 other conferences and just takes them over.
And the SEC has another down year. Oh
yeah.
Oh, what beast.
Or like some Pac-12 quarterback transfers to the SEC, like Jaden Daniels did to LSU, and be like
Cam Ward.
Just like,
transfers to
Cam
Ole
Ward
Miss
transfers to transfers
and
to
just
Ole Miss,
blows out Alabama and
right.
Georgia. Oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Oh, I love it. Washington.
Wow, look at that.
Over under 9.5. They went goddamn 12-0 for the first time in Pac-12 history.
Wow.
And I hate it. Luckily, they are ranked number 3 in the AP poll, which is good for us. Because hopefully if we beat them, we get that spot or somewhere around it. Top 4 is all we're really looking for.
Yeah.
But all I really fucking care about is winning the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah.
That's all I care about.
I remember before this season started, I watched a TikTok video of a guy who called his shot on Washington being 12-0, and I brought it up.
Fuck that
and
guy.
I'm pretty sure I got ridiculed.
You probably did, and you ridiculed again. Stupid fucking idea. And he was wrong. even though he was right.
He was right. Yeah.
He was wrong for saying it. Yeah, Washington won. It's kind of amazing, and this is not like a little thing that, I've noticed this. All of us have noticed it. How close their last X amount of games have been.
Right.
To whatever the competition level is. Like, it's almost like they saw Oregon fans patting themselves a little bit on the back of like, well, we lost, but we only lost by 3 to Washington. They're a good team. We're going to be all right. And so they're like, we can't let Oregon have that. Let's make sure we beat every team by 1
3.
point. Like, it's truly, it's been kind of incredible. It also goes to show you, like, I years ago when we were talking to Hythloday, I remember him being like, me being pissed that it was like, well, why is our defense getting just torn up by this quarterback and this receiver? And Hythloday just basically said, sometimes if you throw a perfect pass to a great receiver, then you go, hey, good job, opponent. You certainly did that. What am I to do about that? Like in certain scenarios. Not that Washington is doing that all the time, but they have great receivers. They got a quarterback who is willing and good to get those 50-50 balls. And a lot of times these games have come down to just that, their ability to do. But it's not like automatic. We're always going to be scoring 35-plus points. It isn't like last year's USC where it was truly, well, we got this shit figured out in offense, so we'll get there. Like, they've had to struggle against some teams you shouldn't really be struggling that hard against. That being said, they just got to win one more fucking game.
Yeah, baby.
They're in the playoffs,
and they're gonna win in that.
And I'm talking about Washington right now, and I hope.
Oh no, fuck them! I'm talking about Ducks. All I can think about is how we're gonna beat them. Sorry,
I hope so, man.
Sorry.
On paper, like in my head, I'm like, how do we look like such a better team, or a better team than when we last played them? They seem to be just kind of found out more and more every week. Penix is, who knows what's really going on with Penix? Like, yes, he is winning these games. I do like the guy a lot, but something seems a little up with maybe an injury, an illness, something. Maybe it is just the pressure of having a 12-0 season. But things seem a little off there. They barely beat Wazoo at home. Like, I don't know. That being said, 12-0, obviously huge accomplishment. I would be stoked if I were a Husky fan. But I'd be nervous, too. I'd be nervous.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're going to win.
We're going to win. This Pac-12 championship game, I mean, we don't. We're the Oregon Ducks. We're 11-1. Over/under was 9.5. We all went over. This Pac-12 championship game couldn't. I am glad that it is these two teams for the first time ever in a championship game. It kind of is a little bit of a storybook ending for one of us. For one of us. I hope it's us. God, I hope it's us. That's all I really got to say. Hythloday, this Huskies team, 12-0. Unlikely to predict that. They're great. They're bad. You got anything to say about them?
Well, I mean, I didn't predict at the beginning of the year that they would go 12-0 because I thought it wasn't a complete team and that just because you use
assume
probabilities.
Michigan State was a little better too. Maybe that was going to be a thing, but no, it was not.
Yeah, FPI really thought that Michigan State was favored in that game, which was like bonkers. I don't know, what their computers were thinking on that one. But anyway, just looking at it probabilistically, the odds of going 12-0, are low, because it requires everything going perfectly, and that's hard to do even if you're a complete team. To play, to dominate. If you're a complete team playing dominant football every week, it's still very hard and unlikely to go 12-0. This team was not a complete team, and they weren't playing perfect football. And for them to still go 12-0, this is low probability event. Like if we simmed out the universe 100 times, we're living in maybe like the 1 to 5% of simulations in which this happened. Like, I don't really, them going 12-0 is a pretty bad beat. And I think probably Washington fan, like if you really spoke to most honest Washington fans, they probably say like the fact that they made it through this stretch of rough games, and won every single one of them, that's a low probability event.
I think so.
Like I'm not trying to say, I'm not really even trying to talk trash about them. I'm just saying, like, I'm just sort of assessing odds. Like those, they sort of won a bunch of games by the skin of their teeth, like, and it's probably is unlikely that happened. And so, like, anybody who didn't take them to go 12-0 shouldn't like feel bad about that. Like, it's not like, we all saw this coming and you're real dumb for not, like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, the other thing I'll say is that, like, there's, in the history of college football, even in the recent history of college football, you don't have to go back very far to find them. Like, there's lots of teams that string together 11 or 12 win seasons, that's like every week you're like, how'd you win that game?
TCU last year.
Yeah, last year had one of them. Florida State in 2014 was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what generally happens to teams like that?
They get blown out by Oregon.
That's right, baby.
It's I mean, you couldn't have written it up better drama-wise, especially like the fact that it's like, well, everything says Oregon, even Vegas says Oregon, but Washington beat them last two times they played. Like, I mean,
if the only argument that the fan of that team has is just like, yeah, I know, but like every week they find a way to win.
I mean, that kind of.
That's like that's not an argument.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not. But I mean, that's all you got. And it may work. Who knows? I'm excited for the game. Very excited for the game. You talked about how hard it is to go 12-0, Hithloday. Well, I think you and I owe a little bit of we need to show some respect to
because I got them all right
on this podcast who went 12-0. Aaron Schroeder picked every single
That's what I thought.
over
Are you kidding?
Under correctly.
Yeah.
I am not
Are you kidding?
As you were working through them, I
episode.
was like, oh, I'm nailing this.
I looked through every single one. If you want to call out he said under for UCLA, under for USC, under for Utah.
You have it on the screen? Did you make a graphic for it?
I did not make a graphic, but I have it written down right here.
Wow.
Not good enough. I'm about to go
over for Arizona, under for Wazoo, under
That's
for ASU. It's truly amazing.
Wow.
Over for Cal, over for Colorado, even.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, no, I always had faith that I was a hardcore Sanders.
You said 5
Sanders
wins
fan.
for Colorado, which is not.
Dude,
not
if you
quite.
took that 12 win-loss total parlay to Vegas,
you'd be a millionaire, bro.
Ah.
You would have had to put up like $10 or something like that. You would have.
God.
Next year,
Picked
okay.
the entire conference correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real, I like quadruple checked this thing because I was like, wait, did he really? At first, I had 11-1, and then I looked at the math again, and I'm like, wait, no, he picked over for ASU or under. For
Honestly,
ASU, so. Yeah, 12-0, baby.
Now the reason why I did so bad through the whole season makes so much more sense is because I literally blew my entire universe tapping load.
You know
on
what?
The beginning.
That's gross, first of all. But Aaron, did you know? I think the main difference when we picked these, I asked you right off the bat, do you want to go first or do you want to go in? That set the trend for the entire rest of the time. When you were picking these, you were really adamant on don't give me a single bit of information. And every time you would just literally be like, I need silence. Let me commune with the... Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's really what you got to be doing.
Yeah, I tapped it, baby.
Now, for Hithloday got 8 of these correct. I got 7 of these correct.
Which ones did I miss on?
Let's see.
Let us see. I should have known that y'all would be a little more interested in them.
I mean, I know I missed on
I'll pick the
USC and UCLA. Obviously.
ASU, you said over, which is surprising.
What did I say? I said over on ASU?
I have over written here. I have over.
I guess. All right.
You thought you were really on the fence about maybe a win over Utah, and you leaned win over Utah. You went under for Cal. You went. I'm just doing which are the ones you didn't choose with.
Well,
Aaron?
that's it. That's the 4.
Yeah, UCLA and USC. Aaron, congratulations.
Thank you. That's kind of exciting. I have to say, I wish we would have put $10 down for each of us.
Now. Parlay, baby. Literally be thousands and thousands of dollars.
Wow, that's so funny.
But, yeah, I mean, shit, dude.
On the other hand, this looks terrible for me.
Yeah,
this negates everything I did.
We could take all 12 of those picks, add them here, and you would still very much be in last place.
Is this going into week 13?
This is going into the final week. I had to do some pretty crazy, drastic picks to try to catch up with Hitler.
That's right.
I did not. Thank God, because if I would have, that means Oregon would not be in the Pac-12 championship game right now. Instead, Hitler got 5 of 6 correct. I've got 2 of 6.
I gave you the gimme in the Territorial Cup because I was feeling bad for you.
Yeah, clearly. You wanted this. Well, can you imagine if ASU would have upset? That would have been quite the 6-0 to get there.
I mean, yeah.
Aaron,
I felt really bad because I was going like, if I just pick the 6 favorites in a super chalk rivalry weekend, and just smash at them. So I just picked the because the Territorial Cup is the craziest of the rivalry games. It's the one where the most upsets happen. So I was like, all right, if the Cosmos comes through for me on that one, then I'll deserve it. But yeah,
fair enough. And even with the craziness, I still wasn't willing to pick Colorado, even though it wasn't a crazy pick apparently. Aaron, we'll give you those 12 points. We'll just add them here. It still would mean you and I are tied 63.
Yeah. Wow.
And Hith ends with 69. Nice.
Hey.
That was the Great Pick'em Challenge. Hitler Day, you are the champion this season. We have one last thing to do here, as we all know. And Aaron, you're the champion of the preseason. Dear Lord, 12-0. Legendary.
12-0 is
absolutely
very impressive. Especially given that he did it based on which mascots he likes.
Yeah. And, if
Washington, what am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. If Washington goes 12-0, not impressive. If Aaron does,
I mean, honestly, given that it's a 50-50, right? Over
it's
on
insane.
win totals are getting 8 of them right. I'm 2 better than average, right? Like I should be happy.
It's still
Aaron
good.
went 12-0, and he picked based on I like your mascot. I'm shattered by this.
Yeah. Your whole exactly.
It's my whole thing, man.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's like what my character does.
Well, if that's the case, then without hearing any other information, Pac-12 championship game this Friday, Aaron. Super specific prediction right now.
Super specific prediction is we win by 21 points, and the game is over halfway through the third.
Look at that.
I really like that prediction.
Halfway through, I fucking love that. I'll tell you this.
I mean,
Aaron,
not just as a Duck fan. I mean, yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh, I would love it. I would love it.
Fingers crossed.
Goddamn much. I'll give you this. I don't think this is going to happen, but throw it out there. Why not? We fall behind 17-0.
God, I hate you.
Early in the second quarter, but finish this game winning by more than 2 scores. That's what I say. It's going to be us rallying. It's going to take us a little wake-up call need, but then we're going to boom, 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 boom.
There was something that Hitler's Day said earlier, right, where you were going kind of we're either going to really smoke them or they're going to kind of smoke us because of jitters, what have you, etc., or something. The worst news thing, that's the way we lose this game. I did have a thought where I was like, oh, geez, maybe this is one of those ones where we're kind of scared for the first quarter, but we get our shit back together.
I actually don't, even though that's my prediction, I don't think
you still don't think it's real.
I don't think there's an Oregon Ducks team that's been more ready to play another team
dude.
than
Yeah.
this team right now.
Yeah, they for real are so hungry.
Dan Lanning's got them ready to like every tackle may be a pile driver. It's like I think he's got them ready to play, and it's kind of almost low key. It's not good that we lost to him, but the fact that we lost to him gives you just that automatic like.
Yeah, I mean, if you got to split a 2-game series with a team, this is the one to win.
Exactly. Hithade, what's your super specific prediction?
I have one. I'm not real happy about, or like, there are some people who would make this prediction with a big, like, evil smile on their face. I don't have a big evil smile on my face. I just like, this is, as an analyst, I think the one that fits best. Michael Penix won't finish this game.
Ooh.
I mean,
It'll be
like
Dylan
we've been
Morris.
saying. Oof, that is rough. And I think us as a podcast, I think we've talked about this enough. Nothing really, like, no hatred towards the even players of this Washington team. Like, Michael Penix is a really fun player to watch. If he wasn't playing for Washington,
and like if anybody, like, no human being deserves to be hurt. Definitely not kids. Definitely not kids who are playing for our entertainment. But if anybody definitely doesn't deserve, to be hurt, even of that, group, like, it's a guy who goes through all, like, the injury history that Michael Penix does. And so, like, this speculation that he's been playing hurt for all these weeks, like, really sort of that really sucks. And, the idea that he takes a bunch of shots and, like, he can't finish the game, like, is not, I don't, like, relish that prospect by any way, shape, or form, but, like, his coaching staff may need to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean,
like, he's not mobile enough. Like, whereas remember in 2020 when Dylan Morris was their starting quarterback and he literally didn't take a sack. I mean, he only played 4 games, but, like, it's because he's escapable enough to get away and throw the ball away.
Let me tell you this, then. This is going to be nuts and definitely something I shouldn't be adding to the end of a long podcast. But Hithade, do you think they would have a better chance if right at the beginning Dylan Morris starts?
I don't know.
Wow.
He hasn't really been playing enough.
Yeah, good point.
Good idea, but, like,
good point. Maybe. Yeah. Anyways, here's one more little secret prediction to the Bo Heisman. This is the game that does it. This is the game that solidifies it with his 5 touchdowns. All right, everybody. We'll either be really happy or really sad next time you see us. Well, next week anyways. Quack, quack. Go Ducks.
Go Ducks!